If you're thinking about getting in the self-storage business today, then you are thinking about getting in the business of analyzing self-storage. In episode 178, I reprinted an article that I got to write for Inside Self-Storage, where it talked about the skill sets needed to be in the self-storage today. Last episode, we talked about the first skill set. And today, let's talk about skill set number 2, how to analyze self-storage. My name's Mark Helm. I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Self-Storage Quick Start Academy. And what I do is I support the small investor who wants to get in the self-storage business, or who wants to strategically grow their self-storage business, do so in a way that creates true wealth and a fulfilling career. And much of the training I have is on Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage.com in the blog training section, and also have a lot of free training and paid for training at thequickstartacademy.com. I've talked a lot and written a lot about how to analyze self-storage, but it's never been more critical than it is today. With prices still so high, it's critical that we as small investors be able to not only see what the upside play is, but be able to calculate how much income that upside play is going to create, because we're going to have to pay more for what's currently there than we want to pay. There's a lot of training, a lot of tutorials, both paid for and free, that I've talked about for a basic understanding. I don't want to go into how to analyze in this episode, but in episodes 103 through 108, I go into detail about different ways to analyze an existing self-storage facility and how to see the upside. And there will be a link in the video in YouTube and a link in the blog in episode 180 at creatingwealththroughselfstorage.com, where you can link and see those episodes if you want to. Also, go to quickstartacademy.com. There is a lot on training. There's a free 3-video series. The second one talks about analysis, and in all of the courses, we go into a lot of detail and have forms that we use on how to analyze self-storage. But what I want to do right now is enroll you in the idea that it is your responsibility, not someone else's. It's yours. If you're the business owner and you're the one that's going to get in self-storage, you're the one that needs to analyze the self-storage. You can't put this off on somebody else. If it's your business, then you're responsible for it. The good news is, it's not that hard. Even if you're creating cash flows and projecting numbers that don't exist now, it's not that hard, because it's self-storage. That's one of the reasons why it's such a good investment for the small investor. Now, people think I'm good with numbers. My partners do. The investors do. I let the investors think that. But the reality is, you're talking to a guy who in 10th grade, my math teacher made me promise never to take another algebra class unless I absolutely had to, and that he would pass me if I swore to him I wouldn't do that. Historically, I'm not someone who's good with numbers or good with detail. But because we're dealing with self-storage, there's not that many variables. That's the good news. Even someone like me can fairly accurately project numbers. So I don't care what story you have in your head about your relationship with numbers and how good you are on Excel or any of those conversations. If it's your business, you are in the business of knowing how to analyze self-storage. I still find it amazing how close we can get in our projections. Just last week, each month I write up the reports on all the facilities that we have, and I do an actual to budget comparison. And what our budget number is off the 10-year cash flow. So in this one project, for example, we are in year 5 of the deal. So I look at the 10-year cash flow that we had before we ever put the project into service. That's our budget number, and I break it down month by month. I just take everything divided by 12. And so at any given month, I know exactly where I am in relationship to where I said I would be. For us, the critical number is the NOI. Last month, year 5 of a project, for year to date, we are $325 off what I had projected where we'd be, and it's $325 more, by the way, of where we'd be in this month, year 5. It's incredible. You can only do that with storage. There's no way I could do that with any other type of investment. Now, not all storages are that close, and sometimes in the initial years we can be way off if it's taken longer to get the units up. But all in all, you can be pretty accurate with your financial projections if you just take the time to learn a few things. This, in my opinion, is why self-storage is the best investment for the small investor. Yes, steel wall, concrete floor, a few capital improvements, but ultimately the reason is because you can project your cash flow so accurately, and you know to a large degree of confidence what this deal's going to generate in cash flow and how much value you're going to create. If you haven't watched the tutorials, feel free to download them. And if you want to go deeper, go to some of the paid classes. However, I want to talk about what I see in today's market are some of the critical things to be aware of as you're doing the analysis. I've always used an average of a 3% a year price increase in the gross income as I'm analyzing, and I've always used 2.5% for my operating expense increase or inflation over the 10-year hold. In the previous years, we have been experiencing way more than 3%. But my coaching is that you're not going to probably see that income growth over the next few years. Yes, I still use the 3%. But don't go any higher than that. Just because the project you are looking at has been experiencing 5, 6, 10% income growth per year, I don't think that's going to hold into the future. Stick to a low income growth in the next few years. Again, I'm still comfortable with 3. I can hit an average of 3 even through a recession. Yes, there were some years we didn't raise it, but all in all, we averaged at least 3% even during the recession. The biggest mistake I see people doing today is in stabilized occupancy. We're looking very often at projects that are 92, 95, 98% occupied. And so to be anywhere close to what's in the marketing package, I see people running numbers at 90, 92, 95%. Don't do that. Historically, we're below 90% on occupancy. Also, when you run a financial analysis, be aware that your analysis is not 95% physical occupancy. In your analysis, whatever you put in, that's your economic occupancy. And economic occupancy is usually below physical occupancy. Yes, in a well-run facility, it's not much, 3 to 5%, but run your analysis below 90%. If it's a hot market, I may use 88%. And also keep in mind, if you're getting financing, the banks are going to be running it most likely as they underwrite it at 85 or 88%. So even though it's currently over 90, and even though he's getting more income today, don't run your projections for the next decade based on that occupancy level. This may be controversial, but I see most packages, and we used to do it, but one of the income lines you'll see is late fees and other income, like admin fees and all of that. Yes, we charge late fees. Yes, we have admin fees. But I don't include those in my financial analysis. If I'm running an analysis at stabilized occupancy at 88%, what I'm telling the program is that I want to assume that I'm getting 88% economic occupancy. For me, that includes everything. That includes the admin fees. That includes the late fees. If I've got income at 88% occupancy off storage, that's income. I used to run those, and I found that I was missing my NOI number. And what I saw was I was almost always missing the NOI number by the amount of money that I had in late fees. We just used to always put in 5%. Why? Because we get 5% late fees. But when I really ran the numbers, what I saw was when you add for us, when you added the 5% late fees in our storage income, I was getting at whatever the stabilized occupancy was. So I've quit doing that. Not everybody does. I'm not saying you have to, but for accuracy, we don't do that anymore. I've also learned the hard way recently not to assume, just because you've built self-storage before, that you know what the prices are, especially for the storage system. Because of the steel tariffs from the person in the White House, I've seen swings of 30 and 40% for the largest single component in an expansion project, the self-storage system. So today, before you start making any real decisions based off the income on your analysis, if you're doing a construction expansion, double check some of the numbers, especially the storage system. And also double check how soon it will be delivered. If you're showing income from the expansion showing up in month 10 and it takes 6 months to get your storage system, is that really going to happen? So pay particular attention to any construction component numbers at this stage of the game. Another thing I see many people doing who are buying their first one, especially if they're going to run it, is they don't put management fees in operating expenses. Put management fees in your operating expenses as you're analyzing it. Even if you've got to pay yourself those management fees, put it in there. You may not have to take it or pay it, but if you're getting financing, the bank's going to put it in there. And so they will come up with a very different net operating income than you because you didn't put the management fees in. And one last item is, don't use the expense numbers that are in the marketing package. Sit down and think how you're going to run that. How many employees are you going to have? What are you going to pay the employees? Are they going to get bonuses? Are they going to get insurance? Put your numbers in there. Don't use the numbers in the marketing package. And put the numbers in for everything it takes to run a facility. Storage World Analyzer has a lot of line items to force you to think or put a zero in there because I wanted to make sure you thought it through. Yes, I go to the package and I look at what their insurance numbers are, and I look at what their tax number may be and their utility numbers are. I even look a little bit at their repairs and maintenance numbers, but I put my own numbers in there. I usually use 12 to 15 cents per square foot because that's about what it costs us yearly to keep a project running. But use your numbers. Don't go with their numbers. And unless it's a very early, very preliminary analysis, don't use percentages like 40%, 42%. Sit down and think, how am I going to run this facility, and come up with your numbers. This is how this project's going to cash flow for you. But the good news again is this isn't hard. It's self-storage. You can do it. Believe me, if I can do it, you can do it. And the goal is not to not make mistakes. I'll tell you, even on the one where we were $325 off, my income number was off, my expense number was off, but the NOI was only $325. What you keep your eye on and what you track, generally, you have a lot of influence and power over. So as you're creating, the analysis is more than just an analysis. You're creating the future of that particular facility for you. Finally, my coaching is analyze a lot of properties, even if you know you're not going to buy them. In last week's episode, if you haven't seen it, go see it. We talked about how to get deal flow. We talked about like claiming an area of the country. If you're claiming an area of the country and your deal is to buy, you want to buy facilities 40,000 square feet or less, then what I would suggest you do is every single facility that's on the market for sale in your area that are 43,000 or less, analyze them. Even if you're not going to buy them, analyze them. It'll help you understand the numbers. You'll start to see trends. You'll start to know self-storage because you've run the analysis on them. Own that area of the country, and how you own it is you know it. And how you know it is you've run financial projections for numerous facilities, whether you own them or not. That's how you get good at being able to analyze self-storage. So thank you very much. My name's Mark Helm. I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Storage World Analyzer. That's the tool we use to run these analysis. Why don't you check into it if you're not using it? StorageWorldAnalyzer.com or CreatingWealthThroughSelfStorage.com. Also, if you are not a subscriber on YouTube, I invite you to please subscribe there. Every now and then we post stuff in YouTube that isn't in the training and the blogs on creating wealth through self-storage. So go to both. Thank you very much. I look forward to being with you again soon.